women are so geared to think more is more. You'll think, oh my gosh, if I'm not doing 5 or 6 exercise sessions, I'm failing. Oh, I'm not training enough. Honestly, you probably are. Hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, the Fit Minds podcast and Coach Mariah Jean here. Today, the topic is, are you exercising enough? I have had this pop up in my messages, emails, conversations over and over and over and over again. The question is, am I exercising enough? Now, first of all, we need to establish, are you exercising? I'm waving my knife around again. Are you exercising at all, right? If you are exercising a couple of times a week, we'll say, right? If you're exercising a couple of times a week, you're doing just fine. And here's the thing, right? Usually when someone asks me, I don't know whether I'm exercising enough or, look, I really think I'm struggling with exercise, it means that it's one of two situations, right? Number one, they're not doing any exercise at all. They're struggling, they're time poor. But usually within that, problem, it's that they assume that exercise needs to be long, hard, difficult, lots of frequent sessions. They think they have to train 5, 6 times a week. So there's that first one, is that they're not exercising at all. And as a result, it's usually because they think they need to be exercising a lot. When I tell them I only go to the gym and do my gym sessions 2 to 3 times a week, I used to be that person who trained 6 days a week. I was that person. Now, I would argue that I feel and I look better now than I did when I was training 6 days a week. I'm stronger, I've got more muscle mass, my recovery is better, I don't have as many injuries, I'm not as sore. Now, I still program. I'll still give people a 4 or 5 day training program if they want them. But if you're a mum and you're sleep deprived, right, doing 5, 6 exercise sessions a week is completely pointless because you're not going to have the recovery there to be able to even get those exercise sessions in. And if you're constantly injured, if you are constantly sore, soreness isn't a bad thing, muscle soreness, but if you're hurting yourself and your hip flexors are really sore, your back is really sore, your knees are sore, it means that your body is not coping with how much exercise you're doing. I've seen this pop up so much in my conversations lately, but basically women who tell me, I train 6 days a week. Now, the moment someone tells me they train 6 days a week, I cringe. Not because I'm judging them, I cringe because that used to be me, right? And I cringe because I know they don't have to be doing that. And I know that they're doing it because they say it's because I enjoy it. No, it's because they are deathly afraid of gaining weight. And they're probably stuck in a cycle of binge eating, or they have a really poor relationship with food because they're over-exercising and probably under-eating. So there is one end of the scale where people are not doing any exercise at all or very little. And there's the other end of the scale, which is the second. So the first is not exercising at all, not doing much at all, because they think they have to do a lot, usually, and then they scare themselves off. And then the second one, or the further end of the scale, is they are training a ridiculous amount, or they're training quite a bit, 3, 4 sessions a week. Oh, I really struggle with exercise. I don't think I'm exercising enough. I'm like, how many times do you train? Oh, like 4 or 5 times a week. And I'm like, that's a lot. That's a lot. And like, oh, I train 6 days a week. Maybe I should be doing cardio. I cannot stress this enough. Please stop using exercise, right? Whether it's gym sessions, whether it's CrossFit, whether it's high rocks, F45, running, I don't care. Please stop using exercise as a means to burn body fat. It is a very ineffective way to burn body fat. Now, I will explain why in a moment, right? What you need to understand is that usually it's your food. It's not the fact that you're not exercising enough, it's your food. I've got clients who are getting results just going for walks and changing their food. Just going for walks and changing their food. They haven't gone to the gym, they haven't even started doing home training sessions. the exercise sessions with the dumbbells, resistance bands, gym program, at home, lunges, squats, burpees, whatever you want to call it, right? I don't do burpees in my programming. But all of that, right? None of that is going to burn body fat as efficiently as you think it does. Full fat loss, exercise sessions are kind of pointless, right? Not saying you won't burn fat, you will burn some in an exercise session, but most of your body fat that you lose is burnt in the hours outside of that single hour, 1 or 2 hours in the gym or at home, a home session. You have 24 hours in your day, right? If you're doing an exercise session every single day, maximum 2 hours, you shouldn't be training for 2 hours, but let's say you're there for an hour. So you're telling me that you really believe that 1/24th of your day is going to contribute a higher calorie burn. You think you're going to burn more fat in that 1 hour than in the other 23 hours. Now we're asleep for another, hopefully 8, but usually 6 for mothers, right? So let's take off some more. So we're at 23 with the less hour, and then we've got, where are we, 17, maybe 15 or something like that. So you've got 15 remaining hours in your day. So if you're sleeping for the other portion, and we can burn fat while we're sleeping, if you're sleeping for the other portion of your day, where do you think you are burning fat? Mostly, right? In the remaining 15 or so hours. And what are you doing with those 15 hours? 15 hours versus 1 hour of training, even 2 hours of training, right? What are you doing with them? Are you moving? Are you walking around? Are you active? Are you sitting down? Are you on your feet all day at work? What do you do during the day? Now, if you sit down in an office role, right, I've got bad news for you. It's not the lack of exercise that is the problem. It's the lack of steps. It's the lack of, getting up and moving around. If you sit on your ass all day, and you don't move all day, do you think your body is going to burn body fat or part with body fat? No. And even if you eat a small amount of calories, even if you're like, yeah, but I sit down all day, I can't control that, I'll just be in a calorie deficit. It's such an inefficient way of losing fat because you actually have power to move more during the day. You have power to be able to get up and go for a walk, right? My biggest suggestion to those who work at a desk, you get a lunch break. Usually, if you don't, change your job. Get a lunch break, whether it be half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour. Instead of sitting down scrolling on your lunch break, get up off your ass, eat your lunch. Doesn't take half an hour to eat your lunch. Eat your lunch, get up off your bum, and go for a walk outside in the bloody sun. If you can't do it during the day because it's raining or whatever, right? Get a walking pad, a standing walking pad for your desk. If your boss says you can't have one, change jobs, okay? It is within their interest to look after the health of their employees, and your mental health improves when you go for walks as well. So, the most underutilized form of exercise is walking. Now, technically, would we classify walking as a form of exercise? Look, yes, if you're having to do it on purpose, but really in the big scheme of things, your heart rate isn't high, your body isn't stressed. So when you go and do an exercise session in the gym or a weights training session, your body is put under stress. Your body can only take so much stress on your body, right? We need a certain amount, obviously, to exercise, but if you're doing that every day and you're trying to do a gym session every day and you're not focusing on your steps and you're doing, I'm training Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday at the gym, right? And then you sit down all day at a desk, you're going to burn a couple of 100 calories at the most, right, in your session. And that's just the fact. That's how it is. I know you don't want to go and do cardio because then it just makes you skinny fat and you end up with no muscle and no shape. There's a reason why we keep repeating ourselves, right? The recommended amount of resistance gym training sessions is generally, honestly, 2 to 3 a week, right? 4 if you really get bored and you've already gone for your steps. If you're already hitting a step count and you're already in a calorie deficit and you're already on a meal plan and you're like, Mariah, I've got extra time, what can I do? Can I do a 4th gym session? Yeah, sure. As long as you're recovering, okay? As long as you're getting enough recovery in between sessions, as long as you're not too sore, yeah, why not? A 5th? Maybe. I mean, if it's 2 upper and 3 lower, if you can really tolerate 3 actual proper lower body sessions. But in actual fact, you don't need 5 sessions, right? This is coming from someone who herself used to train 5 to 6 days a week in the gym, now only does 2 to 3. I'm stronger than I was before. I have better recovery. I'm not sore. I'm not injured all the time. I'm not tight all the time. And I focus on my steps outside of that. It took me years to get to that point where I wasn't so obsessed with exercise that I was using it as a coping mechanism for my stress, my anxiety. Of course, it is an outlet. It's something that you want to use for your mental health, but you need to stop giving exercise so much power when it comes to either losing fat, maintaining weight, right? Or, all of the above. Of course, yes, gym training and exercise with weights, resistance training is going to build lean muscle mass, yeah? Especially if you're at maintenance or a calorie surplus. So basically you're not trying to lose body fat. Your body will gain a little bit of muscle while you're in a calorie deficit, especially if you literally had none before, or you weren't very strong before, then yeah, your body will gain some muscle in a calorie deficit. But as far as like the big picture goes, if you want to get particularly strong, you need to get your calories back up again to maintenance or to a surplus, right? So, but most of my clients are fat loss clients. They want to lose body fat, like cool, fair. But like, please stop using gym sessions as like a form of fat loss. That's not how this works. I see it all the time. I don't think I'm exercising enough. And we dig deeper, we dig a little deeper, and we discover, nope, you are exercising plenty, and in some cases, you're exercising too much and you're not eating enough. So I'm going to do another podcast after this one as to how do you know if you're eating enough or not eating enough versus eating too much, right? It is really simple for me to understand because I'm a nutritionist. I, have my Cert 3 and 4 in fitness. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm a coach, right? So for me, it just makes sense. Energy balance makes sense. Making sure that you're eating enough food to match the amount of energy that you're using daily from your daily movement or lack of movement, your brain function, your organ function, your exercise, walking, everything. Anything that allows your body to literally function, whether it be physically function or mentally function, will burn energy. You need to make sure you're eating enough energy to match that, right? If you are exercising too much, if you're doing 5 or 6 sessions a week, 6 sessions even, doing cardio, have a really high step count, 16 to 20,000 steps a day, and you are exercising 6 days a week, I'm sorry, but that borders on disordered eating / over-exercising. And exercise obsession will always go hand in hand with an eating disorder or disordered eating patterns. We hardly ever see a person training 6 days a week, doing crazy amounts of cardio, having a high step count, and having a really good relationship with food. Like, it just never happens. Mainly because they've gotten to that point where they weren't losing weight, they were eating healthy, or maybe their calorie deficit was way too low, and then they're like, well, I'll just exercise more, because I keep binging and gaining fat, maybe I'll just exercise more, it'll burn it all off. And then it's become this slippery slope. So don't be that person. Every time I see someone who comes to me and says, oh, I'm training 6 days a week, I'm like, stop. Immediately stop doing that. If there's one fire we can put out, please stop training 6 days a week. Stop it. Your body is going to hate you for it, right? And you know what? It's one of the hardest habits to stop someone else from doing. I know when someone says, oh, I'm training 6 days a week, I feel like saying to them, you're not going to like what I'm about to tell you, but you need to taper back those sessions. 9 times out of 10 when I tell them to do that, they say, I'm going to really struggle to do that. Oh, I don't know whether I can. That's going to be really hard. Or are you sure? I'm worried about gaining weight. I'm worried about getting more fat on. And that usually comes with like a plethora of other issues mentally that are going on with them, where it's very likely they're under eating. They're not eating enough food to support their exercise, those 6 sessions a week. You do not need to be doing 6 exercise sessions per week. Walking every day, yes. However, if you already have an active role, if you're counting your step count and you walk, like for example, you're a nurse or you're just a very active person, right? My steps are at almost 7,000 for the day, right? Now, some people might go, oh, that's low. It's not low. The step count recommended and associated with a healthy heart is 6,000 to 8,000 steps, right? There is this common misconception that it has to be 10,000 steps. The amount of calls I get on with new clients who I'm talking to who say to me, oh, I'm not doing enough steps. And I'm like, are you sure about that? I could almost guarantee you are when you're saying that to me. And they might go, oh, I only do 7,000. I only do 8,000. And I'm like, you know that we can like tailor your meal plans and your calories to that step count. We don't have to hit 10. And it's like, oh, what, really? Yeah, because having a healthy heart, you just need to get to around 6 or 7 every day to keep your heart healthy for longevity. And then we can make sure that your calorie deficit matches that step count and your energy from your exercise sessions. So it's like, if you think about it, if we're matching them together, it is irrelevant if you do 6 sessions or 3, because we can just slightly reduce your calories to match that amount of sessions and that amount of steps. Oh, when you put it like that, I never even thought of it that way, because women are so geared to think more is more, right? You'll think, oh my gosh, if I'm not doing 5 or 6 exercise sessions, I'm failing, right? Oh, I'm not training enough. Honestly, you probably are. Or if you're not, then 2 or 3 sessions, perfectly fine. Even 1, perfectly fine, okay? Stop trying to be this like, I don't know, inspirational fitspo that, you know, trains every single day and gets up at fucking 5 o'clock in the morning and goes to the gym just because you've seen that on social media. Doesn't mean it's actually required to get the result that you want, right? And then on the other hand, it's, oh, I'm not doing enough steps. I'm not doing enough steps. Who told you that? How do you know that? Because some coach you had was like, you've got to get 10,000. Or because you started binging after under eating your food and then you just randomly fell into doing 15,000 steps a day to compensate. And now you think that if you don't do that, that you're going to gain weight. This is really disordered behavior. And you know what's crazy? 9 out of 10 women I speak to are showing these signs. Either not doing any exercise at all and then shaming themselves because they can't do 5 or 6 sessions a week because they think they have to. They think that the exercise sessions are going to burn fat and without them they can't lose weight. Not true. We can just do the meal plan, the steps, 6,000 to 8,000 steps, the meal plan, match it, you can lose some weight, and then we can introduce some basic exercise sessions when you are ready and in a good routine with your food and steps, right? Simple, 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 simple. Keep it simple. That's why I love coaching everyday people instead of mainly comp prep now, because it's so easy to solve the problems they're having. It's not, you know, comp prep is complex, there's a lot of emotions involved, but I feel it's rewarding to help everyday people understand what balance actually looks like, right? And then with the step count, it's like, okay, now we know that 6,000 to 8,000 is enough. Most people who are sedentary, who are sitting down all day, might get to about 4,000, 5,000. So then reaching and stretching to 6 to 8 isn't so bad. It's a 20-minute walk on their lunch break. It's a walk in the afternoon with the kids. It's a walk in the morning with the dogs. It's whatever it looks like, a walk on the walking pad after the kids have gone to bed for 20 minutes while you binge watch a TV show. That's as simple as it gets. That is as simple as it gets. Pairing it up with your meal plan, a couple of exercise sessions a week if you want to, when you are ready, but there is no need to go from 0 to 100, right? And if you're at 150, you probably need to come back to like, you know, 80 or 60, right? Because there is such a thing as too much exercise. There is such a thing as overdoing it. There is such a thing as your steps being too high. And we've seen in studies, a step count exceeding 16,000 steps a day is associated with atrophy in the legs, muscle waste, right? So all those women that you see on Instagram who are peeled like a fucking banana, who have no menstrual cycle, you don't know that, but they likely have no menstrual cycle, and they're doing runs, they're training twice a day, they're fucking doing HIIT training, they're like, yeah, you know, they are ailed with, they are plagued with injuries and ailments. There we go, I'll get there. They are plagued with injuries and ailments. They are hiding the disordered eating patterns that they have. They're not talking about them, right? And I know because I was that person. That was me when I was 20. If you don't remember, I was stick thin. I used to run every day. I think if I had worn a step, I'd had like a little pedometer. I think I did 20,000 steps a day. It was fucking stupid, right? And on top of that, I was going to the gym 6 days a week and I was eating 1,300 calories. Now I had no ass. I also ended up a bulimic, right? And an anorexic, mentally so unwell that I almost took my life twice. Don't. Do not play with fire. Because trust me, I've been on that side of the fence and it's a miserable existence. Not only is your menstrual cycle impacted, your fertility, your libido, your moods, you change as a human being and you hate food and you can't possibly think of eating, you know, the smallest amount of chocolate. You think it's like the worst thing in the world. So I suppose the answer is to the question, am I exercising enough? The answer is usually, honestly, most of the time, yes. But your idea of how much exercise you need to be doing is really distorted, and you probably don't need to be exercising as much as you think, right? Because you don't, and that's okay, this is fine, you don't know enough about exercise and nutrition to understand why. You don't. You've just always seen people who exercise all the time and just glorified it. And you don't understand that if it doesn't feel good, if you are feeling burnt out, if you are binging all the time, you've gone too far and you're not eating enough food to match it. And eating more food won't make you gain weight. You should probably pull back your sessions and maybe increase your food a little bit. That way you're not binging, right? Somewhere in the middle. I keep making this like visual representation. One end, you're not doing much at all, you're sitting on your ass all day. You need to move. At the very least, do some walks, 20-minute, half-an-hour walks a day. That's it, on your lunch break, whenever, as I said before. And maybe when you're ready, do some exercise sessions, but address your food and walks first, right? And the other end of the scale, you're fucking doing too much. But then there's the middle. The middle is you're probably doing enough exercise sessions. You go in the gym 3 to 4 times a week. Step count's pretty good, 8 to 10,000, comfortably doing it. Maybe 6 to 8. You've got no issues with your exercise. You're doing enough, but you think you need to be doing more. No, you need to fix your food. It's always one of 3. Probably not doing enough exercise, need to do a little bit more, need to fix your food. Middle, okay, so that's at the start. Not enough exercise, probably need to address your food, just need to do some basic walks before, crawl before you walk, right? Middle, probably doing enough exercise, you think you need to be doing more sessions. You're probably nailing it, doing great, step count's fine, you need to fix your food. On the other end of the scale, at the other end of the extreme, so number 3, so 1, 2, 3, number 3. You're doing way too many exercise sessions, you need to reduce it and increase your food. You are welcome. You are welcome. 3 most common problems I see when people are trying to figure out whether they're exercising enough. And if your sessions take longer than an hour, they're too long. Okay? Otherwise, you're fucking around on your phone. Stop doing that. So, that's about it from me. I'm going to finish up. There is such a thing called low energy availability, and it all comes down to the fact that the person is over-exercising, overtraining, overreaching, whatever it might be, and under-eating. Okay? Or just plain under-eating. And so low energy availability is something I see quite commonly with people over-exercising or women who just don't eat enough in general, right? And they tend to not struggle with weight loss, they tend to feel really low on energy. Whereas on the other end of the scale, people who are over-consuming calories, they don't have the low energy availability, so to speak, because they're not over-exercising or anything like that, but they do need to address their food and just go for some basic walks. Okay, thanks for listening in, guys. Appreciate you. I'm going to do a podcast next week, as I said, about whether you are eating, how to know whether you're eating enough or whether you're eating too much. All right, talk soon. Bye.